What if I told you that the reason your blood sugar keeps climbing has nothing to do with your last meal, not your carbs, not your portion sizes, not even your medication dose? What if the real culprit has been sitting in your kitchen the entire time and you've been walking right past it every single day? If you're over 60, managing blood sugar, doing everything your doctor says, and still watching those numbers creep up, stay with me, because what you're about to hear will either frustrate you deeply or finally give you the answer you've been looking for. Here's what I know after more than 15 years working specifically with patients over 60. Most blood sugar problems are not just food problems, they're environment problems. And fixing the environment, the internal environment your cells live in, changes everything. In the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly why your fasting glucose spikes even when you eat nothing wrong, why your medication may be working less effectively than it should, why cold water in the morning could actually be making things worse, and how a simple shift in daily routine, no new diet, no new drugs, can create measurable results within 2 to 3 weeks. I'm Dr. Gregory Holt. I've spent over 15 years focusing on metabolic health, aging, and the biological realities of what happens inside the human body after 60. I've worked with hundreds of patients who were told they just needed more restriction, higher doses, or better willpower. Most of them didn't need any of that. They needed something far more basic and far more powerful. And before we go any further, I want to be clear. Everything I share in this video is educational. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you are managing diabetes or any metabolic condition, please work with your licensed healthcare provider. This content is here to inform and empower you, not to replace the guidance of your doctor. Always consult your physician before making changes to your treatment plan. Now, let's get into what's really happening inside your body and why the solution may be simpler than you ever imagined. Let's start with something your doctor has almost certainly never brought up in a routine appointment. Cellular hydration. Not hydration in the general sense, not drink more water. I mean the specific ability of your individual cells to absorb and hold water. And why, after 60, that process quietly breaks down in ways that directly sabotage blood sugar control. Here's the physiology in plain language. Insulin is a messenger. Its job is to knock on the door of your cells and say, "Open up, glucose needs to come in." When that works correctly, blood sugar drops after a meal. When it doesn't, glucose stays floating in your bloodstream, and your readings go up. Now here's the part most people never hear. One of the most common reasons insulin stops working efficiently is not insulin resistance in the classical sense. It's that the cell doors are stiff. Dehydrated cells have rigid membranes. They don't respond the way they should. Insulin shows up, knocks, and gets no answer. Think of it like a door that's swollen shut in winter. The key works perfectly, the lock hasn't changed, but the door won't open because the wood has dried and warped. That's what cellular dehydration does to your metabolism. And here's what makes this particularly important for people over 60. 3 major biological changes happen with age that make dehydration worse, and all 3 happen silently. First, your thirst signals weaken. You genuinely don't feel thirsty until you're already significantly dehydrated. Second, the protein channels that move water into cells, called aquaporins, become less efficient with age. You can drink water and still not hydrate properly at the cellular level. And third, many common medications for blood pressure and blood sugar are themselves diuretics. They pull water out of your system as part of how they work. The result? Millions of people over 60 are chronically, measurably dehydrated, with no dry mouth, no obvious symptoms, just rising blood sugar that no one connects to the real cause. Stay with me, because this gets even more specific and actionable as we go. Here's something that surprises almost every patient I work with. When you drink water matters more than how much you drink. Most people think hydration is simple math. Drink enough water across the day and you're fine. But that's not how your body works, especially after 60. Your cells don't absorb water uniformly throughout the day. They have windows of heightened receptivity, and if you miss those windows, the water you drink essentially passes through without doing the cellular work it should. I had a patient, I'll call him Thomas, 71 years old, retired engineer, sharp man, very disciplined. He was drinking nearly 2 liters of water a day. By the numbers, that sounds like plenty. But when I asked him when he was drinking it, the answer was telling. Almost all of it was in the evening because he didn't want to make bathroom trips during the day while he was busy. He was front-loading his nighttime and neglecting his daytime windows completely. His fasting glucose readings were in the high 150s. His morning cortisol was elevated. He was waking up groggy and stiff. His afternoon energy crashed every day around 3 p.m. We didn't change a single thing about his diet. We didn't touch his medication. We just moved the water. 4 specific windows: 16 ounces first thing in the morning at room temperature, 8 to 12 ounces 30 minutes before his largest meal, 8 ounces mid-morning and mid-afternoon, and a smaller amount, just 6 to 8 ounces, about 2 hours before bed, not right before sleep. Within 10 days, Thomas was sleeping through the night. Within 3 weeks, his fasting glucose dropped to the low 120s. He called me and said, "I feel like someone replaced my body. Same water, different timing, completely different result." The reason the morning window is particularly critical comes down to something called the dawn phenomenon. Between roughly 4 and 8 in the morning, your body releases hormones, primarily cortisol and glucagon, to prepare you to wake up. These hormones naturally raise blood sugar. That's normal and necessary. But when you're dehydrated overnight, those hormones become more concentrated in your bloodstream. Your blood is thicker, less responsive, and your cells are already stiff from hours without water. The natural rise becomes an exaggerated spike. That glass of room temperature water within minutes of waking interrupts that cycle before your day even starts. I want to stop here and ask you something. When you reach for water in the morning, what temperature is it? If your answer is cold, straight from the refrigerator or ice water, you may be unintentionally making your blood sugar harder to control every single morning. Here's why. Cold water causes vasoconstriction. Your blood vessels constrict in response to the temperature drop. When blood vessels tighten, circulation slows. Reduced circulation means glucose and insulin move through your body less efficiently. On top of that, the physical shock of cold fluid first thing in the morning triggers a mild stress response, and stress hormones raise blood sugar. You're trying to do something healthy, and the temperature is quietly working against you. Room temperature water, or even slightly warm water, does the opposite. It supports circulation, it reduces the morning stress response, it improves the speed at which insulin can reach the cells that need it. I had a patient named Carol, 68, who couldn't understand why her morning readings were consistently 30 to 40 points higher than her before bed readings. Even when she barely ate dinner, she was doing everything else right. Good diet, medication on schedule, even walking in the evenings. But every morning, the number was punishing her. The one thing we changed? Her morning water. She switched from ice-cold water kept in her bedroom fridge to a glass she left on the counter overnight. Room temperature by morning. She added a small pinch of sea salt for minerals. 3 weeks later, her morning spike had dropped by an average of 28 points. She came in and showed me her tracking log. 2 columns, before and after. The difference was visible to the naked eye. That's one change, one habit, and it made a measurable, trackable difference. Keep watching because the next piece ties everything together. Here's where it gets a little more technical, but stay with me, because this one point is responsible for more confusion than almost anything else in metabolic health. You can drink water all day and still be functionally dehydrated at the cellular level. How? Because water without minerals doesn't stay where it needs to be. Your cells are held in electrical balance by minerals, primarily magnesium, potassium, and sodium. These minerals create the gradient that pulls water into cells and holds it there. Without them, water passes through your bloodstream and goes straight to your kidneys. You urinate it out, and your cells remain dry. This is why some people drink constantly, visit the bathroom constantly, and still feel exhausted, foggy, and dehydrated. The volume is there, the minerals are not. And here's the important connection to blood sugar. Glucose transport is an electrical process. Insulin's signal to open a cell is transmitted through electrical gradients. Without adequate minerals, particularly magnesium, which over 70% of older adults are clinically deficient in, the signal weakens. The door doesn't fully open. Glucose stays in the blood. The fix doesn't have to be expensive or complicated. A small pinch of high-quality sea salt in each glass of water adds trace sodium and other minerals. Mineral drops, available at most pharmacies, cost about $15 and last 3 to 4 months. Foods rich in magnesium and potassium, like leafy greens, avocado, and pumpkin seeds, support this further. I want to be clear, you're not trying to replace medical treatment with salt water. You're restoring the electrical environment your cells need in order to respond to the treatment you're already on. Think of it like this. If you have a perfect stereo system, speakers, amplifier, cables, but the electrical signal is weak, the music sounds terrible. You don't need a new stereo, you need a better signal. Minerals are the signal, and once the signal is strong, everything else in the system works the way it was designed to. Now let's put all of this together into something you can actually start tomorrow. Not in theory, not someday. Tomorrow. The structure is simple. 4 hydration windows per day, room temperature water, minerals in every glass, and consistency over perfection. Window 1. Immediately upon waking, 16 ounces, room temperature, small pinch of sea salt or a few drops of trace minerals. This is your most important window. Don't skip it, don't delay it. Put the glass on your nightstand tonight. Window 2, 30 minutes before your largest meal. 8 to 12 ounces. This does something specific. It improves blood flow to the digestive system, slows the rate at which carbohydrates reach your bloodstream, and prepares your cells for the incoming glucose load. It's like opening a gate before the traffic arrives, rather than trying to manage a traffic jam after the fact. Window 3, mid-morning and mid-afternoon. 8 ounces each. These maintain the cellular hydration you built in the morning and prevent the gradual dehydration that causes that familiar afternoon blood sugar variability. Window 4, 2 to 3 hours before bed, 6 to 8 ounces, not right before sleep, that disrupts rest. 2 to 3 hours before. This supports overnight kidney function without forcing you awake at 2 a.m. Now let's talk about what to expect week by week, because managing expectations is part of making this sustainable. In the first week, you'll notice more bathroom trips. That's normal and actually a good sign. Your body is recalibrating. Your kidneys are relearning how to process consistent hydration. Push through it. It normalizes within 10 to 14 days. In week 2, most people notice something shift. Fasting readings start to stabilize. The wild swings reduce. Energy becomes more consistent. This is real progress. Even if the numbers haven't dropped dramatically yet, stability is the foundation. In week 3, the changes become visible on paper. Fasting glucose often shows a measurable drop. Post-meal spikes become smaller. Mornings become more predictable. By week 12, 3 months, the kind of deep cellular adaptation that reflects in an A1C test becomes possible. A1C measures average glucose over 90 days. You cannot rush that number, but if you do the work, it will move. I had a patient, I'll call her Margaret, 74, who came to me after her doctor mentioned that insulin might be the next step. She was terrified. Her A1C had climbed from 7.6 to 8.5 over 8 months. She felt like she was losing control of her own body. When I assessed her daily routine, she was drinking almost exclusively decaffeinated tea and diet soda. Maybe 1 glass of plain water on a good day. She had no idea how dehydrated she was. Her body had stopped signaling thirst years ago. We built the 4-window protocol. Minerals added, room temperature water. She tracked her fasting glucose every morning in a simple notebook. Date, readings, and 4 checkboxes for each hydration window. That's it. At 6 weeks, her fasting readings had dropped by an average of 22 points. At 12 weeks, her A1C came back at 7.1. Her doctor, who knew she was working with me, called it remarkable. Margaret didn't think it was remarkable. She said it felt too simple. But that's exactly the point. Simple, done consistently, is more powerful than complicated, done occasionally. Here's what we covered today. 1. Cellular dehydration makes insulin less effective, not because of what you eat, but because your cell membranes become rigid. 2. Timing your water intake matters more than volume. 4 specific windows create dramatically better results than random drinking throughout the day. 3. Cold water in the morning triggers a stress response that worsens your fasting glucose. Switch to room temperature. 4. Minerals are the missing piece. Without them, water passes through without doing its cellular work. And 5. The protocol is simple, trackable, and produces measurable results within 2 to 3 weeks, with deeper improvements over 90 days. If this kind of clear, evidence-grounded content is what you've been looking for, consider subscribing. I release new videos every week focused specifically on metabolic health and longevity for people over 60, and there's a lot more coming that I think you'll find genuinely useful. Start tonight. Put a glass of water on your nightstand. Room temperature. Add a pinch of sea salt. Drink it first thing tomorrow morning before you do anything else. Then come back and tell me what you notice. I read every comment. Your body hasn't stopped wanting to heal. It's just been waiting for the right environment to do it. Give it that and watch what happens.